All right, so we are making strides here, which is wonderful. Now, the next thing we're going to do is to continue talking about variables. Variables in Kotlin and many other languages, they do have types. Now, a type essentially means what type of a bucket am I creating and what kind of things am I supposed to put in that bucket that I created. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a new file class here. So we're going to say new Kotlin file class. I'm going to call this variable. We're going to start with string. Okay, I'm going to go and copy all of this information here because we don't need to be constantly writing the same thing, right? So I'm going to delete all of this. So we know what variables are. Now we're going to talk about types. We have strings, we have int. You've seen strings already, so this is a string type. So string, we have int, we have double, we have boolean, we have float, we have char, and a few others, but these are the main ones. Again, a type essentially tells us, because we know that a variable is a little bucket in memory that we assign to say, hey bucket, here's your name, and also we are going to add this inside of you. Okay, so when we define a variable, we need to make sure that we also define what kind of data we are going to put inside of it. We don't want to create a bucket that is supposed to hold cats, and then we decide that we want to put elephants in it, right? It just physically wouldn't work. Okay, so let's go back here, create a var country, okay, and we're gonna say Spain. Okay, so again, we know this is a string because we have double quotes and inside we have a text. Okay, that's a string. So this is a string variable. Now this country here is a bucket that contains this Spain string. Okay, so that means also if I go here and I say country is equal to Mozambique, okay, that's also valid because now I'm changing whatever was in the country. First was Spain, and now I'm saying, oh, now it's going to be Mozambique. Now, the reason why I know this is okay, and you can see there's no problem here. In fact, we can go ahead and say print line and say country. We're going to go ahead and run. We should see Mozambique. There it is, Mozambique. That's all good. Again, we say Mozambique here because we changed to Mozambique. Now, the reason why I'm okay even to put Mozambique or any other string here is because I know the first thing I did here when I instantiated or when I first created this bucket, I said to be Spain, which is a string. Implicitly, we're saying this country bucket here will always hold strings. If we were to add, let's say, 23, which is an integer, we'll talk about next, we're going to have an error. Okay, because it says here the integer literally does not conform to the expected type string. And you may say, well, how, again, we didn't specify it to be a string, right? But we actually did. The moment you say equals and put a Spain here as a string, then that means this is always going to be string. This is how you define a variable to be a string implicitly, not directly. Now, if we want this to always be a string, or to explicitly say that this country variable is a string, we can say, we'll say country like that and put colon, and we would say string just like that. Okay, so now we were saying this country here is of type string, and then we could say here country Spain, and that would all work. Or we could have said at the top here, just give it Spain like that. That would also work. Okay, so those are two ways to define a variable. Wonderful. So we learned a little bit more about how to create a variable of type string. So we learned how to explicitly do that by saying country, colon, string, and then we can say equal Spain. Or if we didn't want to do that, we could have just go ahead at the bottom here, say country, and then add it to say Spain. Same difference. So it's all the same. And also we learn the implicit way of defining a variable type. We say country, and we just give it Spain like that. And so that is also another way of us telling our system that country will only accept strings. All right, perfect. So in next video, we'll go ahead and talk about integers.